If you want to add some storage and organization to your laundry room, this shelving system is a perfect idea that you can do really easily. And today we're going to break down the design of this framework and how you can put it together and customize it for your own laundry room and storage needs. This was put together by Rob, who is one of our customers, which is really cool that he built this and then shared it with us. And essentially this whole thing is made out of off-the-shelf electrical conduit, which is a steel tubing if you're unfamiliar. You can cut empty conduit really easily with a handheld pipe and tube cutter. And then the pieces of conduit are put together with these fittings here, and those are Maker Pipe clamps, and we actually manufacture those here in upstate South Carolina, and we ship them all over the country to people building all kinds of projects. And this is a really great idea, like I said, for a shelving system, for your laundry room, especially if you've got a big family, you got a lot of clothes, or just if this becomes a catch-all room for things you need to store and organize, then this shelving system, you can customize it easily to get exactly the storage needs that you want and need, and then you can also build this and save a lot of space and just add more storage and organization, which is always a big plus anywhere in your home or garage. So like I said, this is built with empty conduit and Maker Pipe connectors, and we're just going to break down the design, and I'll just screenshot this here. Essentially it's 6 verticals, which is pretty simple, and you can customize the height of this if you want it to just sit over top of I think he's got one of those washer and dryer combos, which is cool. But you could build, if you just wanted like a workstation to fold clothes, you could just do that. You don't have to build a whole shelving system, but you can customize this. And essentially what Rob did was create 6 verticals here exactly to the dimensions that he wanted. It looks like to still leave room on top to be able to store things up top there if you wanted. Those 6 verticals are essentially connected together with various Maker Pipe connectors, and we'll just go through and highlight a few of them. And really the main part of the framework just consists of 2 different Maker Pipe connectors. You've got the 90-degree connector there, and then you've got the T connector in a few different places. And so the 90-degree connector allows you to have this vertical piece of conduit run continuously through the connector, and then you have the horizontal pieces of conduit. Those terminate inside of the connector because you don't have to do any drilling or welding with Maker Pipe connectors. You just use a 5mm hex wrench to put them together. And the 90-degree connector is 2 pieces that joins 3 pieces of EMT conduit together, as we just highlighted here. And essentially you just have these pieces that go and terminate in the side of the connector. So really he used a combination of 90-degree fittings in various places to kind of create this rectangular framework. I think he also used 90s down here, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think the very bottom also used 90s as well, just to create those rectangles. And then he's got some pieces of wood sitting on top of the frame, and then those are secured with one-hole straps, which are really simple and inexpensive and a great way to secure flat surfaces to your builds. And essentially, he's done 2 different shelf designs where he used 90s in that way. And really, I think he did this really just for extra bracing on the frame, and because it works really well if you if you want to support a piece of wood in a few different places, or if you need to brace your frame, because it looks like here he did 90s to create this full rectangle that goes all the way around here. But then above that, this shelf is just T connectors, which if you'll notice, it doesn't have this horizontal piece of conduit running front to back. It just has these 2 pieces going from side to side. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he just did this because it cuts down on cost, and that extra bracing really isn't needed for every frame or for every shelf unless you're going to be supporting a lot of weight. But even still, the piece of wood is only resting on 2 of the 4 pipes, either at any given point. So really, that extra frame that extra pipe front to back on both sides isn't really adding any support for the shelf. It's just bracing the overall frame, which I think is why he did that selectively throughout the build. But essentially, we've got T connectors here again, just to add these horizontal pieces from side to side. And then I think up here at the very top, it looks like he used 90-degree connectors, again, just to create this rectangle. And something else he did, he introduced a new connector up here in the framework, and this is the Maker Pipe 4-way connector, which works similarly, all the connectors work similarly in the way they clamp together, but essentially there's a piece of conduit running continuously through the middle, like we saw with the 90, and then there is a piece of conduit running from front to back, as we can see there, terminates in there, and we've got this horizontal piece that was running from this side over here to the middle, and then he's got another one here going to this other side to another 90-degree connector there. And essentially just did this to add an additional brace because he's got a pretty wide shelf. Most of these shelves going down are pretty narrow, and not very wide. But at the very top, this is a very wide shelf, so that's why he wanted to add an additional brace from the front to back, which is a good idea, and that's why he used a 4-way connector there. But then over here, we've got more shelves, and it's just more T connectors. And like I said, just, he kind of sporadically used a mixture of either T's to make a shelf or 90s to make a shelf, just depending on where that front to back brace and support was needed in the overall framework. But essentially, that's pretty much it. You can customize the dimensions of this. Like I said, you can customize the height. If you want this to go all the way to the ceiling or maybe halfway up, so you have a workstation to fold things. You can also customize each individual shelf, and because the MakerPipe clamps, you don't have to kind of cut and incorporate them into the span. They just clamp onto the pipe. You can really add these T's or the 90s anywhere along this vertical piece of conduit, and you can space apart these shelves, adjust them as needed, and really customize their dimensions exactly how you need, which is really cool. And then, like I said earlier, all of these flat pieces of material, I think it's wood, are just all secured with one-hole straps. We kind of get a sneak peek of one right there, and those are just holding that flat material in place, which is really cool. And something I didn't really notice until someone commented on Instagram, he also added a T connector here, which adds a pipe that's just sticking off, and he's going to be able to hang clothes off of that. So, some people, like me, I'm kind of tall. It's kind of hard to find clothes that fit. So when I do, I don't like to dry them because then it causes them to shrink faster. But you can essentially just add a piece of pipe like he did coming off of this so that you can, hang clothes off of there and, dry them, which is really cool. And you can customize this, add all kinds of stuff into it, add pieces that, you can add on later or take off when you don't need them. Just all kinds of customization possibilities, as always, with the empty conduit MakerPipe. But this is really cool, Rob. Thanks so much for sharing this. Really great project and idea, and we love seeing it. If you want to see this post in more detail, I'll link it down below. If you have any questions or comments, you can comment those down below. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.